Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Inter, and welcome back to the channel. And on the Titan Talk yesterday, they had a bit of a discussion and like a Q&A session on like, how they're going to move forward, what their plans are for the game with the smaller team that they've got going forward. And I thought it was really interesting. They answered a lot of good questions. I really appreciate that they do this show, man. It's a really great show, keeping in touch with the community and stuff like that. It can't be easy for them as well. They probably got to deal with a lot of people trolling them and stuff like that. But yeah, they answered a lot of really good questions in my opinion. There's some info here about, the future of the game going forward, God release cadence, skins, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just thought I would go over it in a bit more of a condensed video for those that don't want to watch the full like hour-long Titan Talk, because I think it's pretty important information that the community should know. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump in. They've got a little bit of a monologue and then some questions and answers.
Comes out today. Achilles comes out next week, and then we will have another patch with another god, right? I believe the next one is Artemis and then Awelish.
Yes.
Yeah. I get confused about the order. We played both of them this morning. Awelish actually has a whole new visual redesign too, which I don't
that's
think
gonna be sick.
yet. Yeah. So definitely, we're grinding away.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about like kind of what our focus is, like for like as we're grinding away, or and then we can
start taking questions.
Yes.
I think so. First, let's touch on though that Rom being live today. That was Lermy's god.
Mm-hmm.
Hearts to Lermy in the chat. Appreciate.
Yeah, go check her out on Twitch. She streams now full time.
Rom is doing Smite 2 some justice from your behalf. And then Achilles, I think, was Ro.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we get Achilles next week, shout outs to Ro. So the focus, this week we're having to pick up some pieces and trying to put together a good plan for how we move forward. Just like Alex said, I think we probably were playing 8 gods today in the playtests that aren't live. So we are
8
still
gods. So probably ask Mr. Awelix included in that, probably Barry in that as well, and then 5 other ones that are probably coming pretty soon.
Some pretty good progress on those characters. But the focus primarily going forward is going to be, as we've had meetings the last couple of days about our core players and who we feel like we need to be focused on in the next couple of months, especially. And around October, we kind of made this same commitment where we wanted to make sure that everything we were doing in the game was geared towards the core players. That's really everyone that's in this chat watching this Titan Talk. It's the most engaged content creators. We want to make sure that we're making a game that they love, because it's not worth talking about bringing necessarily in a ton of new players if the core doesn't believe that the game is in a great spot. So
yeah, that's what it was in the alpha, in my opinion. That's kind of what it was. The game wasn't in a good spot. Existing Smite players didn't like it during the alpha. I didn't like it. I was very critical of the game in the early alpha periods. But I feel like they've got to a pretty good spot with that, honestly. I feel like most core Smite players are pretty happy with like the actual state of Smite 2 as a game to play. People are saying it's a lot of fun. I feel like basically all of these Smite 1 players that haven't moved over at this point are either diehard skin fanatics that will never play Smite 2 because they lost their skins from Smite 1, or they're like on last gen consoles and stuff, so they're still playing Smite 1. I think that's the vast majority of people that haven't moved over. I think a lot of the people that can move over and aren't skin haters will have already moved over and think the game's really great, so they're definitely in a better spot with that now. And thank God these layoffs happened, now rather than during the alpha period. I think if they reduced the team size like this during the alpha period when there was a lot of core work to do on the game, it would have been a much more dire situation, I think. But yeah, they've already done a ton of work to get the game into a really good playable state. It's a ton of fun. They just need to be adding content now.
It's October. We committed primarily to them, and we kind of made sure that we service them with the god migrations and get the game in a great spot.
I would say the core gameplay, right? Because that's the thing that matters the most to hardcore people that love Smite 1, right? Because they already have gone through the learning cliff needed to enjoy Smite, and they're judging Smite 2 more against Smite 1 than against other like current games, right? Yeah. So like certain things that feel like a huge improvement from Smite 1, maybe like compared against other games are not quite at that level yet. We know we need to get there, but that just hasn't been the focus yet.
Yeah, that's right. And so we want to make sure that, as we move forward, the plan makes sure that we service the core players. And, secondarily, we want to make sure that the core players have some things that they are allowed to, get them some of the skins that they're wanting into the game. The Wandering Market coming live now. It's like give the core players, a way to, find, help support the game that they want to stay alive. And like in this time where we're
go buy some diamonds, dude. Go buy some diamonds. If you believe in the future of the game and, you're willing to put a small amount of risk on, losing all of that money. If you really enjoy the game and you want to get some value out of it, put some diamonds on, dude. I bought the biggest pack recently, even though I didn't really need to buy the Wandering Market because it's such a good deal. But yeah, I bought the biggest diamond pack. I'll try and support the game if you can, if you feel like you can afford to do so.
Having to make these, cuts, we're not, to be honest, we're not even giving the players an opportunity to even try to support us. So, so we do want to make sure that we're also trying to get some of those types of things in that we've largely not, focused on the last 4 months. So we want to make sure we're doing that. Then the next thing that we want to do is make sure that we're still giving the core players the systems that they are missing and that they really want to focus on. And as we're building out the systems, we want to make sure that core players are the defining group that we're building them for, and then secondarily, if any features could help new players as well, then it's core players and new players is what the focus would be on first.
Makes sense.
Everything, if it's anything that's on the schedule that doesn't service those two groups, we're removing from the schedule as we're going forward. So we're going to spend this week reevaluating our schedule and reprioritizing things based on that, and we'll get that built out to really help improve this, the base core of the game before we start to really then the fourth bullet is to focus on new players, get them into the game only after we've kind of strengthened the foundation. I think I did see one question about the God frequency going forward.
Yeah.
Over the next couple of months, you can expect to still see, I think, like I said, like we had Achilles next week, and then we have Artemis I think is the next one after that, or Wheelish, and then
Bari.
And then Bari. We are going to be committed to those. We know that we're going to want to release those on that same cadence. How we spend this week and evaluating where do we want to spend the majority of our time on God migrations versus classic skins versus cross-gen versus those types of things really is going to help us define the content release plan that we're gonna go forward with. But for now, you can expect at least that, and then we'll share with you as soon as we have the rest.
Yeah, so that's going to be like OB4, Artemis and a Wheelix, OB5, Barry, and probably another ported god as the second god of OB5. And then it seems like after that, they'll kind of reevaluate. And I think that's kind of fine, honestly. I don't think that's like too bad, in my opinion. Yes, people are still going to be missing their gods for a bit longer than they probably would have been before. But in terms of like, there's kind of two issues with like the god roster. There's people's favorite gods not being in. But that is a smaller issue, in my opinion, than what we had at the start, where there was no god variety at all and every match felt the same. That's a much bigger issue, in my opinion. And I think that has been, mostly alleviated at this point. We're already at 50 gods in the game now, and with these next few that are coming in will be more than 50 gods, and I think that's already a decent amount of variety to where like not every game feels the same. And I think for most people that's a bigger issue than not having their one favorite god in the game. Like King Arthur's not in the game, but I don't really mind that much because I've got all the stuff that I can play and the game variety is high enough. So if they were to slow down god release cadence, that's something I would personally be okay with. But I know there are a lot of people that they only play a handful of gods or even one god that's not in the game yet, and that does kind of suck.
Figure it out.
Yeah. So essentially, we're going to keep doing one god a week as long as we can, right? But then almost certainly it'll go to like a god every 2 weeks at some point in the future. There's a lot of people asking us to focus more on skins. We need funds. People want to help. I think, we definitely are having those conversations internally. I think part of what people are upset about too is, there aren't enough classic skins, right? And some people that are in this chat have a ton of diamonds that they can of legacy gems that they can
I've got like 250k.
Get all of those, right? And that's kind of okay.
Every classic
there's
skin
also
for
a lot
free.
of people that don't have that many legacy gems. So we're talking about how we can get more classic skins over, how we can make sure we have kind of a regular cadence of skins, but just kind of what the right balance is, right? Because if we just dropped new skins that you couldn't get with your legacy gems, and that wouldn't be fulfilling the commitment to you guys that we made. So we're trying to figure out like, how do we do both?
Yeah, for me personally, I'd be okay with that, but I know that there are a lot of people that are like, oh, I have to buy more diamonds to be able to use my legacy gems on stuff, and classic skins are a good way to alleviate that. You know, if it is a classic skin that they bought in Smite 1 and it's imported over, they can just rebuy it without having to spend any money on diamonds. For me, like 50% off of all of the new Smite 2 content is already more than fair in my opinion, but I know there are a lot of people that, you know, they want to get something purely for their legacy gems, so classic skins are important for that.
We also get the cross-gen skins that we're missing, right?
Cross-gen
skins we stopped
too,
all skin production for a little while, and you know, one of the biggest like support tickets we get right now is, where is this cross-gen skin that I already bought, right? And that sucks, and we need to get those in the game. So yeah, there's it's something that we're thinking about. We also our UI team, you know, it's been hard, but everybody's really just like jumped in and been like, okay, well, how do we solve things? How do we make things better? And in an afternoon, a person on our UI team threw together a very simple single page store. So we can actually have kind of like a,
cool,
like a featured, here's the new stuff store page. So that'll be coming relatively soon. Like,
yeah, that'll be good. Once they start getting more actual skins in the game, maybe you can buy, you know, other things from there. Having an actual store page, even if it is relatively primitive on the initial implementation, that'll be really good as well. Because, you know, I do feel like probably just the lack of skins and the lack of people wanting to buy skins is a bigger issue, but I feel like there will also be some cases where people just can't find the skins. You know, if there was a full store page that showcased all of the skins that you can buy, people might go, oh, I'll have a look at the store page and see if there's anything I want. And that'll probably encourage people to buy skins a little bit more, rather than having to, you know, go through every single god and check if they have a skin you want and stuff. That's kind of cumbersome.
You know, I think internally we're definitely putting a little bit more focus on that. Not that we're going to go too hard on it, because we know that we still need to release gods really regularly. We know that there's other in-game features we need, but we are definitely putting a little more focus on it.
Yeah, I see several questions across YouTube and Twitch, all kind of towards the same tune. So I'm just gonna choose one, and we can talk about it. But it's how can we feel any good about investing time and money into the future? It seems like the pattern is that Smite does well, then we get blindsided, and things seem to get worse.
Yeah, that sucks, man. That sucks.
The way that I have always lived my life as a gamer is I play whatever game I am having the most fun playing right now. And I think most people live their lives in the same way. We are very fortunate that a lot of people think Smite is the most fun game that you can play. There's a lot of people in chat today because they believe that. There's a lot of people who've been playing this game for a decade, just like me, because they believe that. I'll go play another.
Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but like, if you're having fun with the game right now, I would encourage you to buy a few things within the game. You know, it helps support the game. You'll get a lot of value out of it if you play the game consistently, if you play it as much as I do. You know, I've already got like 300 hours on Smite 2, and that's just on the regular client. I think I've got like 150 additional hours on the PTS client. Like, if you're getting a lot of value, getting a lot of fun out of the game, I would encourage you to spend a little bit of money, get some skins, get some Wandering Market or whatever, some Ascension passes. Is the future of the game completely certain? No, but the future of no game is completely certain. You know, we saw this with Smite 1, you know, where people assumed they would keep their skins forever. You're not going to keep your skins forever. They might go away. They might go away sooner than later, potentially. But I don't think, I mean, I'm not on the inside or anything. Hyros will be able to give a better approach to this, but I don't think the future of the game is so uncertain, to be honest. I do think it will continue, because with these layoffs, they've essentially aligned costs with revenues. That's what they've said they've done. So if they've aligned costs with revenues now, I feel like the revenues the game is making will only go up over time, unless there's some kind of dramatic drop-off in players, which there hasn't been yet. The players have been pretty stable even since this news. Like, we haven't really seen a major drop in players or a major drop in like viewership on Twitch and YouTube and stuff like that. Maybe a tiny blip, but that's kind of it. So unless there was any kind of major drop in people playing the game and spending money, like, revenues will probably only go up over time. You know, as more gods come in, it will bring in more players, and it will bring in more skins. As they bring those in, people will spend more money on those. You know, Wandering Market just launched. Probably a lot of people bought that. I did myself. So I feel like if costs are aligned with current revenues, the current revenues when they made these layoffs were probably pretty low. Like, they were probably the lowest they will ever be for Smite 2. I think revenue will only slowly increase over time as more and more skins get added and stuff like that. So if costs are currently aligned with revenues, I feel like the future of the game is actually quite stable. It's going to be slower. It's going to be slower in development for sure, because they did lay off like almost half the studio. But I think it will be slower but stable. I don't think, you know, the company is in an unstable situation anymore. They wouldn't have laid off this many people if it wouldn't have put them in a stable situation.
We have this amazing core community that loves Smite above all else. And as long as that community is around, I think that Smite will continue to have a life, right?
Yeah, 100%.
like all things,
and it seems like people are sticking around based on playing numbers and stuff.
Over time, right? I would almost guarantee there will be another great time in the future, and there will be another, oh my god, everything's over time in the future, right?
Yeah, there always is.
Even if you look at a game like Counter-Strike, right? Like when Counter-Strike first switched to CS:GO, it was like dead, because everybody was like, oh no, it's not as good as Counter-Strike Source, which isn't as good as CS 1.6, and then it took a while, but they ended up back on their feet once they got things going.
I didn't really know about that, to be fair. I don't really follow CS all too much, but like Smite 1 had a similar thing, Smite 1's peak was in like season 7. Granted, that was because of COVID, but it did maintain those post-COVID numbers for quite a while in terms of like way higher than it had in like its early days, season 2, season 3, season 4, like players were much higher. Like Smite didn't peak this early in its life cycle. Smite 2 probably won't peak this early in its life cycle either, in my opinion, assuming the game survives, which I think it will. Smite wasn't peaking during beta. Maybe like you could argue like esports viewership and prize pools were peaking during beta, because like the launch tournament and like season 1 worlds were some of the biggest prize pools we ever had in esports. But in terms of like actual people playing the game, I don't think it peaked in beta. It peaked way out in like season 7 or something like that. So just because we had that like 21k player peak during the launch of Vegas and stuff, that doesn't mean that's all the game's ever going to achieve. I do think it can set new highs. That's what Smite 1 did later in its life. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. A lot of the more important game shaping questions were done at the front end of the Titan talk. There was some other stuff that they talked about as well, but you can watch the full Titan talk if you're interested in like the very details of it all. But that's like the main things that I wanted to share and give my thoughts on and stuff like that. I know some people don't like watching, a full hour 12 long Titan talk and trying to glean the information from it. Prefer to just watch, a 15-minute video from me or whatever, kind of covering it and giving my thoughts on it. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. They talked a good bit about like the future of the game, what their plans are moving forward, God release cadence, skin releases, all that kind of stuff. So I just thought it would be a useful video to put out. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.